Welcome back, true believers and all you spectacular Spidey fans, to another very interesting episode of Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales 101. Now, while we're still waiting for news to be provided for this game coming directly from Insomniac Games and Marvel themselves, there actually has been some pretty interesting updates revolving around the primary features that will be implemented within Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, which in this case thoroughly analyzes the extremely essential frame rate and visual fidelity that the game will entail running on the PlayStation 5. Now, based on everything that we do know up to this point, Insomniac did confirm that the PlayStation 5 will utilize all of its assets to make Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales a true next-gen experience for hardcore Spider-Man fans. We also know about the game's graphical capabilities as well as the inclusion of the DualSense controller. Not only will the game's character models as well as New York City as a whole look that much more realistic, but being able to physically play this game while using the DualSense controller itself is surely going to make for a much more immersive experience. However, there still are a couple of pretty important details which we haven't received full disclosure on yet from Insomniac or Marvel, but lucky for us, that's where Digital Foundry comes in. And in case you're unaware, Digital Foundry actually specializes in gaming technology and hardware reviews, as well as using bespoke capture and analysis tools to fully provide a unique look at the way games are played. They've also provided a plethora of great in-depth looks at some pretty major AAA games, fully going in detail as to what exactly makes them tick and how they run on the current and next-gen platforms. And lo and behold, that's exactly what they did today for Spider-Man PS4, as well as giving a bit of an insight as to what we can expect for Miles Morales PS5. So in case you want to check it out for yourself, Digital Foundry actually did a full-on breakdown as to showcasing exactly what Marvel's Spider-Man would look like running at 60 frames per second. Because not only does this showcase an amazing glimpse as to what Miles Morales could look like running at 60 FPS, but this feature itself might in fact be included on launch with Miles Morales on the PS5 as well as Spider-Man PS4 running on the PS5, due to the fact that all PlayStation 4 games will be backwards compatible on the PS5. But as for the main breakdown at hand, we are going to analyze the most recent article posted by Richard Leadbetter, who, if you're unaware, is indeed the technology editor at Digital Foundry. And while there is a lot of great info to dive into within this article, I'm mainly going to highlight the most important points that do directly relate to Miles Morales PS5. But again, if you do want to watch the previously mentioned video or read the entire article by yourself, I will leave them both as links in the description below. And to start at the beginning of the article, there was one key takeaway from the recent PlayStation 5 games reveal, beyond how good the key titles looked, and that's the fact that the 30 FPS console video game is clearly not a thing of the past. In actual fact, the evidence suggests that the 30 FPS performance target underpins the majority of Sony's impressive first-party offerings, including Horizon Forbidden West, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales. It's seemingly a key point of difference between PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. While stressing that developers can use the console's power as they wish, Microsoft has often talked about 60 FPS as a design target for next-gen, even mooting the idea of 120 FPS gaming, specifically in some scenarios for the new wave of HDMI 2.1 displays. So, in case you forgot, Marvel's Spider-Man on PlayStation 4 did directly run at a solid 30 frames per second. And while the original format of Spider-Man PS4 did not run at a solid 60 FPS rate, it still physically played immensely crisp and smooth, running on both a base PlayStation 4 as well as the PlayStation 4 Pro. Not to mention that the overall visual quality that the game had was simply off the charts. And based on the information that we do have now coming directly from Sony Interactive Entertainment, it does look like we may end up receiving both types of games running on the PS5, either with that of 30 or 60 frames per second, depending on the type of game it is. Regardless, I still believe that this is all in benefit of what the final product of Miles Morales will be running on the PlayStation 5 come launch. And to elaborate upon that a bit further within the article itself, Sony kicked off its PS5 reveal with a short teaser for Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, and the evidence suggests that developer Insomniac is sticking with the 30 FPS performance of the original game, even though the horsepower exists to double frame rate to 60 FPS. And if you actually watch Digital Foundry's recent video of Spider-Man PS4, seeing the game play out at 60 FPS is an absolute treat, and perhaps gives us some idea of the path not taken by the developer. After replaying the game and revisiting the Miles Morales PS5 trailer, it's pretty clear that Insomniac decided to take its Spider-Man engine in a different direction, as opposed to simply doubling up on frame rate. It's difficult to draw too many conclusions from what what is a very short snippet of action, but over and above the effects work on display, the likes of which you don't see in Spider-Man PS4, there is the sense that the studio is taking existing technologies and amping them up, while at the same time adding new features. It's an approach that likely wouldn't be possible if the studio were looking to double frame rate at the same time, certainly not without a ground-up revamp of the technology. Now, to put that into layman's terms, Digital Foundry is pretty much implying that Insomniac is once again focusing on the overall visual fidelity that Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales will have, instead of the smoother-looking 60 FPS portrayal, which, to reiterate, is exactly why they made Spider-Man PS4 a solid 30 FPS in the first place. Now, just to clarify for anyone who might be worried out there, this does not mean that Miles Morales is going to be lagging or anything when you actually start playing it on your brand new PS5, but rather the game might run fairly similar as to what we experienced when playing Spider-Man PS4. And due to the fact that Miles Morales PS5 has been confirmed from Insomniac and Sony directly, that it is in fact an overall graphical enhancement and expansion as to what we played with Spider-Man PS4, while also encapsulating that of a smaller scope in comparison to another game of Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, when put all together, it does make quite a lot of sense as to what the final product of the game could become. But no matter what the final frame rate for the game will be, the overall visual quality it will have will be a massive improvement for what we experienced in Spider-Man PS4. Like we all saw in the teaser trailer, the small snippet we get of ground-level web swinging does suggest that New York City is a significantly denser place to be than it was on PlayStation 4. Vehicle count looks higher, while the amount of NPCs frequenting the streets also looks more robust than the existing game. And in both cases, the draw distance looks a lot better than anything we've seen in the existing Spider-Man PS4 game. The trailer also shows that we're in the depths of winter, with snow and ice a key component of the visual makeup. It's transformative compared to the New York we saw in the first game, where the closest we got to adverse weather was a pretty basic rain effect. Insomniac has also stated in a tweet that ray tracing features found in PlayStation 5 may be used in Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, and funny enough, specifying that puddles will have RT reflections. The firm has certainly shown a lot of interest in the technology based on what we saw in the trailer and gameplay footage for Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. With that said, so little has been shown of the new game, and while puddles do feature fleetingly in the teaser, they don't seem to look ray traced. Regardless, deploying RT would fit in with a strategy of using next-gen GPU power to increase fidelity as opposed to increasing frame rate. Exactly what we're seeing from Horizon Forbidden West and Ratchet & Clank. And the reason why I'm not worried in the slightest about Miles Morales' visual quality is because Insomniac is in fact using their same engine that they previously used on Spider-Man PS4 and has now upgraded with what they're currently using on for Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. And yes, the same exact thing goes for what they're currently working on with Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales. And the biggest factor that I have to point out, which not a lot of people seem to be grasping yet, is that the game isn't even out yet. The same exact thing happened with Spider-Man PS4, where the game did look really good in all the trailers that we did see previously, but it did look even better once the game actually released. And given how high quality Miles Morales currently looks just within that teaser trailer alone, I can only imagine what the fully polished graphics and visual style is going to look like once the game actually launches in holiday 2020. But of course, if the puddles don't live up to the next-gen graphic style of the PS5, then we're going to have a serious problem. And alongside of this, there's actually another AAA Marvel superhero game releasing this year, also coming out on the PS5 with that of Marvel's Avengers. And the reason why this is an extremely important factor is because even though Marvel's Avengers is in fact a third-party multi-platform game, it has been confirmed that on the PS5, the game will include a 60 FPS performance mode as well as a high-quality fidelity mode to boot. And even though we haven't actually received any official footage of the game in action running on the PlayStation 5 just yet, the current frame rate that we have seen for the game running on the PS4 is what I would call less than optimal. And if a game like that, which is again a third-party title, can in fact have a 60 FPS performance mode, I don't see why Miles Morales on the PS5 can't do the same thing, especially considering there have been quite a lot of other major AAA Sony exclusives which have also come with a 60 FPS performance mode, which made the game look and run absolutely beautifully. As an example, one of my personal favorite games of all time, Shadow of the Colossus, did have both a high fidelity cinematic mode as well as the 60 FPS boost mode. And even though that game was made by Blue Point Studios, I still think that the same thing could happen with Insomniac for Miles Morales' game. But still, we'll just have to wait until we receive an actual statement from Insomniac themselves clarifying what that matter will be. But no matter what, I still think the game as a whole will run and look just fine. And to finish off this article with a very well-rounded statement, it may take time for developers to find their feet with the new systems, and there may be some disappointments along the way. But the fact is that both Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 are more finely balanced between CPU and GPU than their predecessors, while developers have more options and fewer constraints from a hardware perspective. PC will likely remain the format of choice for high frame rate gaming, but what Sony's PS5 showcase strongly suggests is that 30 FPS remains an enabler for some tremendous visual experiences, and we can't wait to see more. And with all that said, everyone, that's the video I have for you today, and please let me know all your thoughts in the comments section down below. What are your thoughts on the primary performance features that Miles Morales could have, and would you prefer either that of a high fidelity cinematic mode or a more crisp and clean performance mode to be applied for the game when you play it yourself? After playing through the entirety of Shadow of the Colossus for a total of 4 times, and while it looked great on both modes that the game featured, I will definitely say that the performance mode is in fact the best way to go. But still, we'll just keep our fingers crossed to see how the matters turn out on Miles' front once we get more info down the line. And until next time, everyone, thank you all so much for watching, stay spectacular, Spidey fans, and peace out.
Will there be any difference between the PS4 and PS4 Pro versions?
You take advantage of the PS4 Pro to look a little better, run a little better.
Any frame rates announcements?
We're locked at 30 both ways.
Venom?
Hell no.